Good afternoon, Flosstube. It's Pam, stitching between the lines. Today is Sunday, June 1st, 2025, and this is video number 150. My monthly Flosstube update. May was an interesting month. I don't know why I say that. I don't know, because some of my work is pretty impressive. I think when I start out the month and I get going on things and I see what my time ahead looks like, I think, oh no, I'm going to have nothing for my video, but not so much. I have a lot of progress on what I worked on. So anyway, yeah, let's get started. It is June 1st. I'm wearing long sleeves because today's high is going to be 55 degrees Fahrenheit, June 1st. There's lots of funny memes on Facebook and stuff about about what's going on around us with weather. So there was one about if you have friends and family in New York State, you better check on them. They're not doing well. And they referenced how many days of rain we've had, which is way too many. Lots. It rains a lot. And there was one this morning about let's try not to turn our heat on in June. I just say try. I'm not saying promise. The heat's on right now. I was holding one of my projects. I don't want everything to be out of reach. So I've got some things on my lap, but I was going to look back through at some of the weather. Yesterday's high was 57 degrees Fahrenheit, and this is May 31st. Let's just see how we compare 57 by the end of the month. There were some 55s with lows in the 40s. Lots of 50s. There was an occasional 70 something, 71. Here's a day in May where the high was 47 degrees. And this is May. We had a frost warning sometime around Mother's Day. I think it came after Mother's Day. I had to bring all the plants in. My general rule is, and I'm not the only one. I kind of made this up on my own out of simple observation, but then I heard somebody else, like a gardener, say the same thing. Don't put anything out till after Mother's Day. But there was a day when I had to bring everything in. It's crazy. So yeah, but we're tough. We're New Yorkers. We're tough. We can handle it. It can snow. We need our heat in June. We need our heat in August. I don't think we've ever needed it in July, but yeah, we're just a late start. Everything's wet. I'm looking at all the trees and things that grow out here, things that flower, and they've done some weird things in the last year or two where we don't have much life in the taller parts of the branches, many leaves or flowers. And it's not because it's been a drought. It's in the last couple of years. So I don't know. Sometimes I wonder. We have a really cute little crabapple tree in the front corner of our house. It is just adorable. It's old and it's gnarly and it looks really sad this year. There's very few leaves and very few flowers. So I have a feeling this is its last year. I don't know. Anyway, it grows. It's gnarly. There's just no other word for it. It's lost its charm a long time ago, but I like it because it's quirky. So back to the not weather forecast. Well, here's the thing. When the weather is crappy like this, I get a lot of stitching done because who the heck wants to be outside? It's rainy, it's wet. Oh, it is not nice. Anyway, we're going into June. So what happened in May? May, there were the 2 whipgo calls, so 2 new starts, and one of them ended up being an actual whip that came out of May with me. It's the first one since I started whipgo this year, with my whipgo being whipgrow. Everything was a new start. Nothing on my board is duplicated or has already been started. So I intended to grow my whips, which I will. I did not know it would start out this way, where the first 5 months I would get 9 finishes and only 1 whip. Whatever. And there's more to come that is more complicated than what was called in the first part of the year. So let's do it. Let's start with not whipgo things. Something fell in my lap. It was a pen. So I didn't know what happened. So let's start with the two things that I work on all the time, which is temperature birds. Been working on this since January 1st, clearly. And this is the May line, and this is the June line. And I will explain as we go along why June has all the bones, none of the temperature details, but I did all the bones of the birds. So there's that one, which is coming along. I mean, I try to keep up. Days will go by where I don't, but then a day will come where I work ahead and put the birds in so that I'm ready to go. And the other one is Birthday Cake, which is a Carolyn Manning. I did Beachcomber last year, started it in July. My goal was to finish it in July, and I did. I kept up with it a little bit every month, and then I liked it so much. I was working on it like in the early hours of the morning. I don't know. That's my early hours of the morning piece. And I ran across Birthday Cake and I thought, ooh, I like that. So I bought it and I started it on my birthday, which is in December. And my goal then was just to do 1,000 stitches a month while I worked on Beachcomber. Beachcomber was just a couple thousand stitches a month. That's how I mapped it out, like what I would need to finish that in a year. But I was consistently getting 3,000, if not more, on Beachcomber. And my goal was about 1,000 on this every month, but I was consistently getting more. I finished Beachcomber a couple months ago, and so now Birthday Cake, the goal is 3,000 a month, which tends to run more. This month I got 5,436, which I kind of think shocked me because I had a lot of mornings where I couldn't work on it, didn't have time to work on it. So certainly didn't work any extra on it beyond 100 or 200 stitches. My kind of goal is 3,000 a month, but 200 a morning when I work on it, figuring that'll cover me for the mornings I don't work on it. But apparently I'm cranking along. So I finished, there was a smattering of unfinished things down here in this quadrant. And then this month I have finished the border all the way around for this other half, and I'm starting across with some stuff so then I can focus on this quarter and then this quarter. So what I do is I scatter around what I work on, but what I pick to work on starts with the next available blank spot, which is right there. And whatever color that is, I'll work on that, and I'll work on it. I have to be able to touch something that exists. That's the general rule. I don't normally head down into this quadrant. I think this pink, there's a huge number of this pink stitches. So when I had it on my needle, I kind of kept going into this quadrant, and it'll help me have things to build off of down here. But basically I do a little bit of whatever needs to be. It's like reading a book. I do whatever needs to be across, and then if it touches, I dip down into it. And then tomorrow I'll go back up it with a whole different color thread. It keeps it interesting. And I'll start whatever comes next, whatever blank spot is highest and comes next. If it didn't get filled out with whatever color needs to go in here. There's a lot of white. This thing has like 10,000 white stitches. So anything that's white over here is stitched. That's not stitched, but it's probably white when it's done. So every now and then I'll decide to stitch nothing but white for a little while, and I'll stitch a bunch, and then I'll go back to stitching a color. So if I keep up with 5,000 stitches a month, which may or may not happen, I don't know. We'll talk about that in a minute. I'll finish this by the end of August. But I'm going to circle back around to what my actual June goals are. And then I have my focus piece for the month of May was rural post office at Christmas. That's what I'm looking around for. That's what was sitting on my lap that kind of fell off. So we've talked about this many times, but we can keep going over it because it's so gorgeous. This was a gift from a viewer who I can't thank enough because I'm so in love with this piece. It is so complicated, though. Do not beat yourself up trying to track it down. It is so complicated. Not that we're all not capable of it, but it's one of those patterns like this. I don't think this came out that crazy long ago. Pam just keeps stitching is working on it too, and she mentioned the date, and I thought, really, 2014? I see it on my pattern now. That's not that long ago. That's not that long ago for a kit to be unavailable, hard to find, and I got it a few years ago. But the complexity, I think, made it, and I don't even know if Busilla is still putting out kits. I have no idea. At any rate, it's one of those patterns that you just unfold one gigantic sheet of paper, and it's just complicated. It's crazy. There's so much outlining that covers the stitches on the pattern that you just have to sit down with the mindset that you're just going to make your way, however slowly it takes, and just know that every stitch is progress. So this progress is, don't fall off your chair to die for. I'm so shocked at what I managed. So prior to May, I might have had some of this red done up to the door. The sign wasn't done, so I'm thinking this red wasn't, but I might be wrong, because that's how much I don't take pictures of things. When I did my blog, I could never remember to take a picture when I started to work on something, and it hasn't changed. The cab of the truck was my focus, so I had the roof all the way across done, sky all the way over here. I had a bunch of this lower level done on the ground. So my goal was to get into the cab of the truck. And really, when I looked at that blank spot and I looked at that pattern, I didn't even know where to start. So I just worked my way down. And this is not all done. This is a lot of blank stuff down here. I ran out of time, ran out of month. When I was having a day when I just wanted to get some stitches in, I would do some of this across here. Some of these just like big blocks of color. So got the cab done, and then I went up here, the roof was done, and I just started making my way down. And this, much like the Carolyn Manning, when a picture is this kind of complicated and the pattern is cumbersome, I go to the top and I start with what goes in the first corner, and then I do that for a while, as long as I feel secure. Then I go back up and I pick the next color that starts, and then I do that. And then maybe that'll hop down here and it'll build off of something else and something, but I don't go far and wide. There's pretty much no stitches in here except the stray that doesn't touch something else. It's just too easy to get off, to get messed up. So once I got them down into the man's jacket, that's when things started to pick up speed, because there was almost big blocks, kind of little blocks. And they moved down into the front of the truck. This, I swear to God, this was the most complicated thing I have ever done. The half stitches, and the half stitches go this way and this way and then this way, and then there's two of them in a row going this way, and oh my Lord, this is one where when you're doing a heaven and earth design and you leave a parked thread, I was leaving parked threads because I just couldn't make sense out of where to put the next stitch. So I was just doing little rows till I could get it. It was kind of crazy. The tires are amazingly complex for a tire. I did this tire, and I remember, the number of times I had to go back and put one more stitch in with a color I'd already done. I don't know. Excuse me. This one was so much worse, and it's still not done. There is still blank space in here. And then ran out of, like I said, I thought maybe last night I would finish this, which is maybe 2 different colors, but then I didn't stitch on it at all yesterday, which was the last day of May. So now it gets put away, and I am feeling confident that one more time of it being a focus piece, I forget, I feel like I know all of you, and we've had these conversations a lot of times, so I don't always feel like I should repeat myself, but I know I should, because people pop in and out of videos and forget. But I have, for a number of years, the way I work on projects is I do a major project and a minor project. this is the first time I've ever had what are basically two minor projects that I work on continuously, which is the Carolyn Manning and the temperature birds. I don't think I'm doing that again. So quite often I would finish the minor project, but not always. They're not always finishable. I'm seeing the sunlight shine through there, and it makes me feel like there's bigger holes in there. Anyway, so this was my major project this month. It was also my major project in, I think, January. And in January, I got a lot of this done. I don't remember. I think I had all, these were done for sure. I may have had some, I definitely had some of the roof started and probably some of the trees started. And then it was just all these wavy bits, and there's empty space, unstitched space in the sky. So it's not as full coverage as it looks. And just big chunks of things. So I feel like I got a lot done, but I was working across here. So this has been a major piece for twice this year, and because I think I can get it done with one more month of steady work, I'm pretty positive I will pull it out again this year. Last year maybe I pulled it out twice. I feel like I might have, but it's been underway for a couple years. I'd have to look on my X-Stitch app to see, but that's neither here nor there. But it's all the kit stuff, the kit fabric, the kit thread. I personally love this fabric. This is like that MCG stuff that people hate. I just love. I stitch in hand, love the feel of it, love how the needle goes through it. You know, you feel like you have something to hold on to, and it's an even weave, and it just holds its shape beautifully. So I think that the color might be mushroom, and I am loving it. So for me, this ticks the boxes. The pattern is complicated. That doesn't tick the boxes. Oh, and here's the other thing. I could not, for love or money, force myself to do any outlining. So I've done zero outlining, whereas in the past, I've outlined every section as I've gone. Could not make myself do it. I kept thinking maybe after the 25th, give myself 5 days to work on all of the outlining. Oh, I did do the bricks, so the bricks must have been done already because I did not outline this time. Not any of it. 25th rolled around. Nope, didn't happen. So future me will be unhappy with past me that I did not at least throw in some outlining stitches. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Learn a lesson, I guess. I don't know. So that was my May regular stitching. And then there was my May whipgo. So May's whipgos were number 5 and number 19. I'm looking, they're over here, 5 and 19. So 5 was, there's extra things that are coming out of the project bag and falling, was Sampler Season Spring by Blueberry Ridge. Now, I heard, I did not do anything to confirm this, that Blueberry Ridge is the daughter of Pansy Patch Quilts, whose patterns I love. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. When I heard that, I'm like, wait a minute, I think the one I just finished was a Blueberry Ridge. So I bought this one probably last year. When did it come out? Don't know. 2024. So yeah, couldn't have bought it before last year. And I did it. Ooh. It was a little box of silks that fell on the floor. I did it on a piece of Dusty Road, which is a Seraphim Fabrics, and I used to be in the Fabric of the Month. In fact, she makes a little note up here. It says Fabric of the Month 21, so I'm assuming it's been since 2021. And there is a thread. I finished it, but I worked like crazy. My determination to finish this. Oh, called for threads. I did it with Weeks Dye Works Madison Rose, and it called for 3 skeins, and I used all but this bit. So I probably used 2.5. 2.5 is probably a safe guesstimation. And it was so much fun to work on. I just loved it, except I'm sorry the light is kind of crappy all of a sudden. We have this thing in the sky that's suddenly here and then gone and here and gone. So I started out thinking my light was good. Borders are, borders. So I would sit down to work on it, and I would try to do 3 of these every time, like 5 of these and then 5 of these or some nonsense like that, just to keep it moving. But then it ended up being like where the whole entire stitching time was getting, I don't know, 5 or 6 of these done and 3 of these done and a length of thread or 2 of these and never anything else. So I don't know, somehow I managed. When I had the whipgo things, I try to work on one of them for the first 15 days and the other one for the next 15 days, so they kind of get a even amount of time, and that seems to work pretty well. When I finish something in less than 15 days, I can move on to the next one, but I think this was day 15 before I finished it. It's so pretty. I feel like the fabric is looking browner than it is, so the pink is looking duller than it is. It's pretty. It's pretty. So that was another whipgo one that was finished. And then my next whipgo piece, number 19, was, Pickle Barrel Designs, Chris Kindle Market. So this is part 1, which is the top. And then I have the last part so that I could show you the whole thing. So the topper goes across, and then there's 6 little individual patterns for the little market huts, which is, to me, this was so reminiscent. We went to to see the Christmas markets in Germany and Austria a few years back, and it just felt so reminiscent of that. The markets vary from rustic and very historic. The word, like, the ambiance is very true to about, I don't know, the 1700s. One market, some of the markets are private, so you pay an entrance fee. Maybe if you're visiting a palace and you're touring the palace, there's a market on the grounds. The one market that I'm thinking of that was trying and very authentic, 1700s. There was a home of a wealthy family. They had founded the postal system in Germany. And so on their grounds, after you toured their house, home, castle, I don't know, they had a Christmas market on the grounds. And it was like the workers that were working there were walking around in these like really old kind of like burlap looking, cloaks, like as if they had been woven by themselves, hand woven. There were fires burning in grates all along the walkway because, it's winter. And it was so cool. So this one reminds me of that. I think it's Erica Elizabeth. Christmas market one is also in my whipgo, and that one's very fancy, very frilly, which, the markets can be like that as well. So I very much enjoy this project, but I have to say it was a hate relationship from the start. Pattern printed on crappy, hook it out of the same ream of paper that Prairie Schooler is out of. And there's a mistake in the pattern. There's a mistake in the pattern over and over and over again in this border. So the border is one of those like pyramid things where first of all, there's the long line that goes across, and then there's 3 stitches, and then in the middle, 1 stitch. And then you skip 3 stitches, and then there's 3 stitches and 1 stitch, and then you skip 3 stitches. Well, about every 4th one, it's you skip 2 stitches and there's 4, and then there's still only 1 stitch on top of it. And then you stitch for a little while, and all of a sudden the pattern again shows 4 stitches down here with 1 on top of it. Well, in the picture, that is not happening. It's a mistake. It's a mistake in the pattern creating that, you know, they're like taking a chunk of 20 stitches and then duplicating it and duplicating it and duplicating it so that the mistake duplicates and duplicates and duplicates. To me, that's incredibly annoying. First, I was in the pattern, I had my highlighter out and I was highlighting. I'm only going to show you the barest, minimumist thing that I need to show you. I was highlighting every now and then where there was only 2 stitches, because then there were 4 on top with 1 up here. And then it is a little while again before the next mistake like that happens. And then a while again before the next mistake like that happens. And then it starts down the side. It's a mistake. Couldn't figure that out. Somebody, somewhere. I mean, it's obviously stitched, and it's not stitched with that weird counting system in it. So yeah, what was going on? And then I'm doing it on weeks fabric with weeks thread, weeks crappy fabric, weeks thread, which I'll use whatever's called for, and if it's called for weeks, I'll use weeks. But weeks thread, to me, is a little bit rougher. So rough fabric, rough thread, it's like sandpaper. I feel like I'm dragging the thread through. So the fabric is 28 count Weeks Dye Works Natural Straw Gingham. So the overall effect is perfectly what I would like. I was not having fun. I did not know what the future of this project would bring. But once I got going, once I got the mistakes figured out, and once I got going, I really like it very much. I hate doing snowflakes, but you know, this is the beginning of the arch. This is gonna be killer. It's the beginning of this up here with a little bit of the green and the holly leaf that's there. This is solidly stitched. That's gonna be fun. No, it's not. I like that kind of style of stitching though, where you pay attention and you stitch 6, and then the next row you do 2 and skip 1 and do 2 and like that, and then there's the letter. I like that, but that's a lot, and it's very close in color. But I don't want the gingham to show through, because then it's clear that I did not stitch. So this, my very first whipgo turned whip. Who knows when I'll get it out again. I think that once I get that top done, like maybe I could do that entire, if this was a focused piece. Well, it'll come out again because it will be on next year's whipgo board. But it shouldn't come out and be a focused project, a main project. I maybe could finish that top part, because then I feel like all the little squares are just easy peasy, things that take just a couple days. So yeah, there's that. So that was whipgo May, and we have whipgo June. Let's do that with plans. So June's going to be an interesting month. We are traveling. We are traveling out of the country for a couple weeks. So I am not picking a focus project to work on exclusively, or a main and a minor, whatever, a main one and then a whipgo ones. I am taking birthday cake with me. It's the only thing that's coming with me. I can stitch on that wearing just, you know, some basic readers. So I'll have a very, very, very long airplane ride, and then just as long layovers. And there's some adventures that I don't believe I'll be going on. The top of one Swiss mountain in wintry climate might be enough. So I'll have that with me. and there's no way I'm gonna finish it. So I feel confident that that will be an enjoyable travel project. And then I have the two whipgos for June, which whipgo was number 21 and 23, I think. My 23 was Deck the Home Treats by the Trilogy, and it was a whole kit. It purchases a whole kit. So I'm sorry that the light is so bad. I don't. My ceiling light is on. I don't know. Life goes on. I started it this morning, just a little bit ago. Whew, man alive. Oh, let's get it out. I just started it. I started up this line of holly leaves. I started in the middle and started my way up. Finish it, not finish it. I really don't know how much stitching time I'm going to have other than during travel. And then the second whipgo is number 21, which for me is this beautiful, what is it, something about in it, 4th July in a jar. I realized that the designer is English would be a second language or a different language than her native tongue. So 4th July in a jar. It should be 4th of July in a jar. July 4th in a jar. It doesn't matter what you call it. It is gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous. I cannot wait to start this one, which will not be until we're back. I'm assuming I'll get a little stitching done when we get back, but no guarantee. I have a beautiful piece of blue Ariel Picture This Plus, 32 count. Probably I'll use this. 32 count, you know, is the... Do I use one? Do I use two? Do I use one? If it's Picture This Plus, probably I'll use one strand of floss because the dyeing process kind of shrinks everything down. So that's the stitching I have for May's wrap up into June's start. I bought, let me just show you this. I bought some floss from my friend Penny at the Daily Stitcher, and she knows I love a John James 28 Petite, which they don't make anymore. So I'd had her at one point order a pack of 50 John James 28 Petites for me, and I worked on my Luca S. pumpkins a couple years ago, and I used the floss organizer thing where you stick a threaded needle in the little marked spot, and I had all needles ready to go because you change thread a time or two in that pattern. So now they don't make the John James Petite. So she included with my order, see, I've taken the needle out of here. There's more needles in the little needle case. Some 28 count tapestry petites from Colonial, which feel just the same, that I like. I need a short needle, I stitch in hand, and I need that like manipulation that you get stitching like that. When I stitch, I can work only on the top across one way, and then I do it with my hand up and down going back, because if I do it the sewing method going back, they don't lay right. I get a lopsided, you know, I get a lazy cross to my X. So that's how I do it. If I'm stitching row by row, right? So anyway, only difference I could tell is that the needle's eye is not as long. It's a little bit wider than like a stitching needle, like a sewing needle, but it's not as long as a John James, but still it's a nice replacement. So I did like those. What else is going on? I know there were some books. There were a few books. I had my Goodreads app open. So I think when we spoke last, I was starting, I think, one of the Scott Turow books. Like I had, in April, I had finished Scott Turow's Presumed Guilty. And that's where I learned the same lawyer, judge, at this point he's a judge, is the same character from some previous books. So I went backwards and read, I'm looking at the dates because I didn't go back as far as, I don't know. I read Innocent, which is another Scott Turow from Kendall County, which is Chicago, I think around Chicago, in Chicago, I don't know. Attorney, DA, judge, whatever. So I enjoyed that. And then Presumed Innocent was a Scott, that was the first one that included this. He was a DA, I think, at that point. Don't quote me on any of it, but I love a legal thriller. I read them. I like the characters. I liked all the courtroom, like, which might put some people to sleep. Presumed Innocent was came out as a movie with Harrison Ford, and I can remember seeing it years ago. So I did that book because I hadn't read the book. I really enjoy Scott Turow, but I did discover 3 of his books so close together. He's very long-winded in like this introspective, like things I realized, and on and on and on, and it just doesn't necessarily. It's not necessarily relatable for somebody who hasn't been accused of murdering somebody, wrongfully convicted, whatever. You're like, all right, already. I can't even follow what you're trying to say. It's just what's introspective to one person is not the same to somebody else. And he can be very long-winded in that department. So I didn't jump right into another Scott Turow book, but I do enjoy his as far as legal stories go. And then I saw, because I have an account with Goodreads, which I don't want any friends, so don't even ask. It's how I keep track of my books, what I want to read, what I'm currently reading. And once a month I get an email about what's new books coming out. And there was a book called The Names by Florence Knapp. It was a new book, and I think she's a new author. So I'm not saying anything bad about the author or the writing or anything like that. It was not what I expected. So the description said that what if your life was different because of your name? So that being the premise, then there's a story, and I expected. So it was a comparison between this child being named 3 different names. How would his life differ? That was the premise. That was the description. And I love that kind of story, like Life After Life by Kate Atkinson, I think, where an incident would happen. The story goes along in someone's life or the family's life, and something happens. So then all of a sudden the story backs up, goes along, and when it's time for this incident to happen, did it happen again? So okay, maybe we need to back up a little further to make sure the child doesn't get injured in an accident. And so they keep doing that until they get it right and life can go on. So I love that book more than I can tell you. And so this seemed like the same kind of thing. Like, okay, what if your name was Pam? What if your name was, whatever else or something else? What would your life have looked like? Which is what this book was. But it was about really much more. It was about how the father, who was an abusive husband, number 1, strike 1, how he interacted with the family based on what the son's name was. And the abusiveness was just so over, like, to me, it was so off-putting. So it wasn't how the kid lived, except for how he lived based on how his father behaved. And the poor mother, she was like main character there in the beginning. So that was very off-putting. So can't say I liked it. I mean, I had it right on my Goodreads wanna read list, and when my Audible account came up with the monthly credit available, I bought it right away. So unless you really want to read that, did not love that. And then I read, at the same time, shockingly, I didn't give one of them up, The Silent Wife, which is a book I would have picked up at a book sale somewhere, library book sale. In The Silent Wife, 2 sister-in-laws, and there's one of them knows a secret about another one, and blah, blah, but the funny thing is I really wasn't sure that was the secret. But the one wife knows something, suspects something, but it's really not as much of something. So the premise of the book is the silent wife knows things, and the husband behaves accordingly because his wife knows things. Not really how it went. We had to suffer through 250 pages easily, more than that, of the one husband being very abusive to his wife. So yuck right there. And finally there's a big eruption and they find things out and there's a big blow up, and all of a sudden he's very contrite, but then he really can't be because that's just not his personality. And the mother, who is two sons and their wives, the mother of the two sons is very involved in their lives, and she finds out, so this favorite son falls off his pedestal and crashes worse than Humpty Dumpty. And so it all happens really fast at the end. Not a good book. Didn't care for it. Don't recommend it. I'm reading right now. I picked up again, probably got it at a library book sale. Let me go to what I'm reading, because I forgot to bring it in here. I was going to get it. What happens here in my house, especially on a Sunday when it's videoing day, is I'll wait until the Monday to videotape. My husband usually plays golf on the weekends really early. And today it's so cold, nobody wanted to play. I mean, it was in the 40s this morning. Nobody wanted to play. So he's here, he's messing around. We're doing all whatever. And I say, are you going to play golf today? And he said, I don't think so. So I thought, all right, I'll make my video tomorrow. And so I got my projects all out and ready, but I didn't get my other stuff well organized. And all of a sudden he walked through the room. He says, I'm going to go play golf. Okay. So I didn't, while I was mentally preparing for tomorrow's video, I wasn't full on ready for it. But the day is here. I'm making the video. He won't be here using the internet or anything, so I hopefully can get it uploaded quick. Excuse me. I don't really have a cold. I have a scratchy throat. So this book, Daughters of Spain. So my girls are Spanish teachers. Oh, heck. My daughters are Spanish teachers, and I've been to Spain a couple times. They each did their semester abroad in Spain. So we kind of have a love for Spain, which is ruled by a monarch. So, Daughters of Spain. This is about Isabella and Ferdinand. Isabella and Ferdinand are who sent Christopher Columbus off to discover America. And so it happened a while back, but I do enjoy, royalty, of the Spanish royalty. One of the daughters of Isabella and Ferdinand married Henry VIII. So it starts out about their children. That's all I know so far. Jean Plady is not, I think it was a pseudonym. Yes. She wrote this book in 1961. So that was kind of interesting. So sometimes the phrasing is a little bit different. But whatever, that's what's underway right now. I downloaded a Kindle book. I gotta find an audio book to take travel with me, and maybe a movie or two. I don't know. I have trouble focusing on like a long flight and stuff. So sometimes I know I'm going somewhere and I'll download a book and I just don't want to listen to it. So I'm not gonna go crazy. I'll figure something out between now and then. On a long flight like that, there'll be movies in the seat back, movies that you can watch. So I don't know, but I'm taking as little as possible. So I'll take my Kindle, which has at least one book on it so far. Might put a second one on there. We'll see. Oh, my stitching isn't in a compact as possible. stitching bag, which I got out one here somewhere. Just not taking a lot of that kind of stuff because already the clothing requirements overwhelming. So that's it for June. That's my June. That's looking ahead to my June, wrapping up my May. And yeah, I think that's about it. Maybe when we speak again, there'll be like summer weather. I'll wear short sleeves. I'm pretty sure it'll happen. Have a good Sunday, everybody. Bye.